And we are live. What is up, everyone? My name is Tyler from the HackSmarter Twitch channel, or from my YouTube channel, or from the Discord, or from LinkedIn, or I don't know how you stumbled across this video, but I am Tyler. It is an honor to have you hanging out with me tonight. And as many of you probably know, because you're here tonight, is kind of a special event. What I am doing is kind of like an ethical hacking workshop is what I'm calling it. And we are going to go through a machine on TryHackMe that's meant to be more realistic than a typical CTF, but we're going to treat it like a legit penetration test. And that's what I do for a living. You probably know this if you stumbled across this video, but I am a penetration tester, but I'm totally not an expert. Like, I've only been a penetration tester for a short amount of time, but during my time, I think I've seen the difference between what you normally encounter in a CTF, which is where I did basically all my training, and what we actually do when we're working with a client on a professional basis. So my hope is that we can work through this together, and you learn something, I learn something. I really want this to truly be interactive. So when I say I'm not an expert, I really mean it. You might see me do stuff that doesn't make sense, or maybe there's a better way to do it. If so, please let me know. Let me know in a comment. I have the comments pulled up on my side screen, so I will be watching the comments as we go. Before we dive into it, I do just want to share a little bit of context. I'm guessing you stumbled across this video, either you're watching it live right now on Twitch or maybe after the fact on YouTube, and you have an interest in getting into the field of being a penetration tester, ethical hacker, whatever you want to call it. And so before we dive into the actual hands-on hacking, I want to share really briefly kind of what my typical week looks like. So my role right now is I am an associate penetration tester, kind of like a junior penetration tester. But I get to do a lot of stuff. It's pretty neat. It's very much hands-on. At the place that I work, we don't rely too much on automated scans. It's all like manual hacking, exploitation, all of that good stuff. And my focus right now, because I'm new, is kind of three specific areas. So my biggest focus is I do web app pen testing. So a client sends us a website and we hack it. We see what vulnerabilities we can find. I also do external pen test, and with an external pen test, generally as a pen tester, you'll receive from a client a block of IP addresses, sometimes 40, sometimes 100, sometimes even more. And you have this block of IP addresses, but since it's external, there's usually not too much open. You're looking at web servers, you're looking for any low-hanging fruit, things like that. And then we'll be working on API pen testing, and APIs seem confusing, but they're kind of like a website, but with no front end. So you do a lot of your stuff with Postman to set up API requests, and then Burp Suite as you kind of fuzz around and see what kind of things you can break and what kind of things you can get access to. So that's what I do in my day-to-day. And most pen tests that I've worked on so far are 5-day engagements, but they vary based on what you're doing. But for a 5-day engagement, what that typically looks like is we test or we hack for 4 days, and then the 5th day is always dedicated to writing a report. And I think that's a part of ethical hacking that people don't realize. You have to have good writing ability and good ability to communicate to clients face to face, but also just through writing well done reports. The report is what the client is receiving, right? That's the hands-on thing that they're actually going to see from all the work that you've done. So do not overlook some of those skills outside of just hands on the keyboard, popping shells, writing reports, taking good notes, and being able to communicate well to people who may not be as technical as you are. What I also do, and if you guys are penetration testers or getting into the field, I kind of hack until about 4 o'clock each day. I work till 5, and I always take the last hour of my day to work on my report. So when it comes to the day to write the report, it's really just me making it look pretty, because I take an hour at the end of every single day to work on my report, and that's been helpful for me being new to the field. So that is a little bit of who I am. I'm glancing over at the chat. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask any questions that you have. Let's see. So Default Sec said, this is my first time. Will this be available later on? Internet seems to be having a fit today. Absolutely. So I post all of my videos as soon as I'm done on my YouTube channel. If you go to the description on the Twitch page, you should get a link to my YouTube, or if you just look for Tyler Ramsbey, you'll find me on YouTube. But the full recordings of all my live streams are always posted on YouTube after the fact. So yeah, check me out on YouTube. What up, J Money? Good to have you here. Stupid Sexy Flanders, very unique name, said yes. I don't know what you're saying yes to. Maybe saying yes that it's going to be available later. And Tyler Ramsbey fan, happy to be here, Tyler. Good to have you here. All right, one final thing before we dive into it. I just launched a Patreon page, not really to make a bunch of money from it. But if you are interested in supporting what I do, you can find me on Patreon. I'll drop a link on YouTube or something. I don't think I have a link ready. Otherwise, I'll post in the Twitch chat. People ask me how they can support what I do. That'd be one way you can support it. And I have like paid benefits because that's what you do on Patreon. But if you go to my Patreon page and see a benefit that you want, but you're not in a place financially to give, just shoot me a message. I don't want any of my content or anything I do be behind a paywall. It's just there so that those who want to support my work, you can support it that way, but you're under no obligation. Truly, I'm just thrilled that I can make this content. Hopefully someone finds it helpful. All right. Well, guys, let's go ahead and dive into it. Introduction is over, and I want to walk you guys through my process. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully you can see my screen okay. Like I said before, we are going to be working on the relevant machine through TryHackMe. It's a penetration testing challenge. I think it's kind of like their capstone challenge for their offensive security path. But what I'm doing, which is probably different than a lot of the people you watch on Twitch or YouTube, is a lot of people like go through the box ahead of time. They have all the exploit steps and they just kind of explain how to exploit it. I have not looked at this, all right? So I'm going to be working through this live. I'll do my best to share my thought process as I'm going through it, and would also encourage you to work through this box live as well. So if you have a TryHackMe account, go ahead and boot up Relevant and get your VM connected to the TryHackMe VPN, and we can do our best to work through this together. And one final thing I want to ask those of you watching on Twitch, just give me a thumbs up if audio and video all looks good and sounds good to you guys. I don't have any headphones. Well, I don't have them on, so I can't monitor anything. I just can see the audio bars over to the side. From my perspective, everything looks like it's going well, but okay, Duke Norris said good. Awesome. And like I said before, I have all the chat pulled up on this monitor, hacking on this monitor, OBS on this monitor. So I will do my best to pay attention to all of it. But if something seems off or something goes off, please let me know in the chat, and I will jump over to it right away. I'm just a one-man army here, so I have no assistance. It's just me, so if stuff does go wrong, just be patient, hang with me, and I'll do my best to get it working. If you haven't already, boot up Relevant. Each machine on TryHackMe takes just a little bit for all the services to get started. And let's go ahead and dive into the scope of work. And for context, when you're doing an actual penetration test, the scope of work is vital. So you have an understanding of what you're going after and what you're not going after. So if you ever do that, it's often an overlooked document, because when we do a CTF, right, we throw every exploit imaginable that we can find online just to see what sticks to the wall. When you're doing a real penetration test, you want to be very careful about things. You're reading through code before you fire it off. You want to make sure you are not harming the client's environment, and you want to make sure everything you do is within scope. The IPs in scope, the URLs in scope, the domains in scope, whatever you're testing, you want to be very careful. Make sure that it's in scope. So let's begin by looking over the scope of work. The other thing I'm going to do is usually I take notes with OneNote, but OneNote does not work in Linux. Like, there's the only way to get OneNote in Linux is through some roundabout ways, which did not work well for me. But I wanted to keep all of this just in this Linux machine that I use for personal stuff, because I don't want to flip over to anything work related. So I've never really used Cherry Tree, guys, but we're going to attempt to use Cherry Tree and see how that goes. I keep saying one final thing. The last thing that I'm not going to demonstrate for you guys is when we do an actual client, we generally begin with a vulnerability scanner to get some low-hanging fruit and know where we go. So that's like Nessus and things like that. I'm not going to do that because those are all licensed to my workplace, and I don't want to use any work-specific software or anything for this. So I'm not going to be doing that realistic part of it. Looking over at the chat, Chip Regal said, are you running on hardware or VM? I am running Parrot on VM. My host machine is Windows. This is just my VM. But because I have so many other windows open, I didn't want to keep having to pull OneNote over from my host machine to my VM as we're typing stuff up. So I'm going to try to use Cherry Tree, but if I get frustrated with Cherry Tree, I'll fall back on my good old OneNote. Another question from the chat. Furkan said, any reason for Parrot over Kali? Zero reason. So I got the OSCP recently and spent like all of my learning for the past 2 years in Kali Linux. And then once I got the OSCP, I was like, hey, I just want to try something different. So I just switched over Parrot literally for fun. There's really no reason that I'm using Parrot over Kali. You can use either one. I just did it for fun. Joe First said there's a web-based OneNote interface of your browser you can use. I know there is, but I didn't like it. That might just be because I'm used to the desktop version. It just wasn't as smooth for me, but we'll see. We'll see how Cherry Tree works for us. All right, let's dive into this. You have been assigned to a client that wants a penetration test conducted on an environment due to be released to production in 7 days. Okay, well, that part probably isn't realistic, right? Generally, how a penetration test works, if we do, let's say, a 5-day test, we'll do 4 days of testing. We have 1 day to write the report. And then often what you provide the client is an opportunity for retesting. So you say, here are the vulnerabilities we found in your environment. The client fixes it, and they let you know, hey, we fixed it. Can you retest those specific things? And then we retest those specific things. So it's not too realistic that it'd be going to production in 7 days. We'd have buffer time in there so they can fix what we find, and then we can retest it. But just throwing that out there. Let's keep reading. I'll jump back to the chat in just a moment. I'm going to try to get through the scope of work real quick. The client requests that an engineer, or 58 engineers based on the Twitch viewer count, conducts an assessment of the provided virtual environment. The client has asked that minimal information be provided about the assessment, wanting the engagement conducted from the eyes of a malicious actor, a black box penetration test. The client has asked that you secure 2 flags, no location provided as proof of exploitation. So user.txt and root.txt if we can get to that point. Additionally, the client has provided the following scope allowances. Any tools or techniques are permitted in the engagement. However, we ask that you attempt manual exploitation first. That is good, and that is one thing I enjoyed about the OSCP. Metasploit is an awesome tool, but of course you can't use it. I think you get 1 attempt on the OSCP. I never used Metasploit for labs or anything like that, and it really does teach you how to do manual exploitation and how to modify exploits you find online, things like that. Locate and note all vulnerabilities found. Submit the flags discovered to the dashboard. Only the IP address assigned to your machine in scope, which our IP is right there. Find and report all vulnerabilities. Yes, there is more than one path to root. And here's really what we're going to focus on. In CTFs, we're often looking for how do we get a shell on the system, and then how do we elevate our privileges and become system authority or root. In a real penetration test, you're looking for all the vulnerabilities, even informational things. So for example, if you submit an HTTP request and in the response it says like nginx and then gives a version number of whatever's running, that is an information disclosure. It's an informational vulnerability that could be used in an attack chain by an attacker to find exploit. So that is something that we would report to a client. So as we work our way through this, we're going to take it slow, just like a real client, and we're going to see if we can find every vulnerability, which means it's going to take us way longer, but hopefully we learn something in the process. All right, role play off. I encourage you to approach this challenge as an actual penetration test. Consider writing a report to include an executive summary, vulnerability and exploitation assessment, and remediation suggestions, as this will benefit you in preparation for the eLearn Security Certified Professional Penetration Tester or career as a penetration tester in the field. Note, nothing in this room requires Metasploit. Machine may take up to 5 minutes for all services to start. Write-ups will not be accepted for this room. I hope they're not mad about me doing a video for this room. I don't think TryHackMe will get mad at me, but if they do, I'm sorry, TryHackMe, but you guys will get over it. I believe in you. Okay, a few things on here. What we are going to do is just go ahead and grab our scope of work that we have here, and we'll just throw it down in our notes. So I'm going to copy that. We'll open up Cherry Tree. Whoops, we'll open up Cherry Tree. And let's see if I remember how to use Cherry Tree. If I do Control N, and we'll call this relevant. I think that's how I use Cherry Tree. That's kind of like our top node. And if we do Control N again and we call this scope, I think we can drag this underneath there. Yep, and it makes it like that. So then we can go ahead and paste our content here. So we at least have our scope here. We have it all recorded. The next thing that we want to do is fire off some scans. So in some ways, we aren't, if there's a web server running, we're not going to do a deep scan into the web server. So when it comes to penetration testing, a web app penetration test is different than an external and an internal penetration test. When you do a web app penetration test, that's when you go deep into the web application. That's when you use stuff like Burp Suite Pro to do active scans against it. When you're doing an external assessment and you find a web server running, you're really just looking for low-hanging fruit. Can you upload a PHP shell? Can you find breach credentials and log in as an admin? You're not looking for the really small vulnerabilities there, so we won't either, but we'll look for some of that low-hanging fruit if we do see a web server running. I'm going to glance over at the chat real quick. Andres Dan 98, if I'm saying your name right, have you used HXD to check binaries? I have not. I've seen it done, but I have not done it personally. Joa Fro said OWASP top 10. Absolutely. We'll hit some of that stuff if there is a web server running. Like I said, I haven't even looked at this, so I don't even know what services are going to be running on this beast, but I'll show you guys. Actually, I'm going to open a new terminal up here, and we'll get things started. So let's do an Nmap scan first. And here's how I like to do Nmap, especially in a CTF type thing. You never know what is running. Sometimes there's a lot of services running on uncommon ports. So if you're new to Nmap, -P- means scan all of the ports. -T5 means a third of 5, just makes it go a little bit faster. We're going to throw the IP in there, and -V is the verbose flag. We could output this somewhere, but what I want to do right now, you could also use auto recon for this. I just like to do it manually. We're going to see what ports are open, and once we have an idea of what ports are open, we're going to do a more targeted scan on those specific ports, and we'll see if we can enumerate some service information and see what we are working with. Okay, looking over at the chat, we have some people sharing Nmap type stuff. Yeah, so the reason, guys, I'm not doing all of those scripts right now is because I'm scanning for all ports. If we throw all those enumeration scripts at it, it just makes it go a lot longer. So what I do is I figure out, hey, what are all the ports that are open on this machine? And then I'll do a more targeted scan on those specific ports just so we can save the time a little bit. So it says 5 minutes remaining. I hope it doesn't take 5 minutes. If it does, we can start poking around, right? I can tell you that we have SMB running on here. I can tell you that we have a web server on port 80. Looks like we have RDP. I believe that's 3389 remote desktop protocol. This is clearly a Windows machine. I can tell just by seeing the ports that are open. And these might be the only ports that we are available. Really going to take 3 minutes. Okay, that's fine. We can go ahead and start documenting some of this though, and there's a chance that we won't even have any more ports. But what we can do is, if I pull up Cherry Tree right here, this is how I take my notes, and we'd be curious how you guys do it as well. This is how I did it for the OSCP. Of course, I use OneNote, so it's going to take me a little bit longer on here because I'm not used to Cherry Tree. But I try to make a separate page, if that's the, I don't even know the correct terminology for cherry tree. A separate cherry? I don't, a separate blueberry? It looks like a blueberry underneath the cherry. I don't know what it would be, but for each service that's running, and then my enumeration that I do there, I keep on that page. So we know the HTTP is running. So I would make a page like that for HTTP. And then once I get the scan results from port 80, I'll paste it in there. And as we enumerate port 80, I'll provide the information there. Okay, so I'm looking over at the chat. Duke Norris said, so a step-by-step with Nmap, start basic and then dive deeper. Yeah, and now I don't know if there's a wrong way to do it. So don't take my word as law, but here's how I do it, right? So we do Nmap-P- like I did up there, T5. We post in, and we post in the IP like that, and then -V for verbose mode. After that, I'll do Nmap-P, and then like port 80, port 443, whatever port's open, -A, which is an aggressive scan, which means it's going to be picked up by any defense mechanism. So you don't want to do this in a red team engagement. And the difference between like a red team and your traditional pen test, and a red team, you're trying to be quiet. And a traditional pen test, we have a very limited amount of time to test this application. And we provide the client with our specific IP before we start testing, because we know it's probably going to show up in their logs. But our goal is not stealth in a traditional pen test. Our goal is quantity. We want to get to everything we can. So -A is an aggressive scan, which means it's going to throw a bunch of the different enumeration scripts at it. We'll do our IP there, -V, and then I copy and paste the results of that into my notes. And as I work through each port, I have my notes there, and we continue to enumerate that way. While Nmap runs, I'll glance over the chat some more. I know for those of you watching on YouTube, you can't see the chat, which is why I would encourage you, if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, join me live on Twitch. It's a lot more fun. We can interact and hang out together. Let's see. So Joe Fro said, when I'm doing a web pen test or CTF, I automatically run an Nmap scan, directory scan with Derby, or Ferrix, Buckster, and Nikto simultaneously. That's really smart. That's what we could be doing right now, and I'll jump over to that. We could start running like Derby against port 80 and Nikto, which is Nikto, for those of you who don't know, is like a basic web app vulnerability scanner that can find some cool stuff. GoBuster is a good option too. Yeah. So let's go ahead and do that. We got 2 minutes remaining on here. So we'll open a new tab and we can start doing Derby. We can just use the default word list. I should save this to my Etsy host file, but we'll do that. Actually, we'll just do that now. So if we do sudo pluma, I'm going to turn down my desktop audio so you guys don't hear Parrot beep at me if I type something wrong. There we go. Sudo pluma Etsy host. I think that's what it is in Parrot. It's called Pluma, I think. So what we can do here is if we copy our IP down there, and we'll just call this relevant.thm like that, and then we don't have to remember it. Now we should be able to ping relevant.thm, and it works. Perfect. So now we can do Derby relevant.thm like that, and we'll kick off a very basic Derby scan with a word list that's built into that. And the other thing I like to do is just to name my tabs, just because otherwise I get it confused about what is going on in each one. So do Derby. And then we'll run Nikto, which Nikto, it's .hf, I believe, for host. And we'll do relevant.thm like that. I don't remember if we have to specify port 80 or not. We'll find out. We'll see if Nikto runs for us. And it is running. Perfect. Okay, glancing over at the chat. Sometimes running Derby on the CML is simple and fast too. Then run GoBuster, Derbuster. GoBuster is a good option. Awesome stuff in the chat. Keep talking. Appreciate you guys sharing that information with me and with others who are hanging out and watching us. So, and this is a big part of penetration testing, is waiting for scans. And of course, this is a lot smaller scan. We have one IP, but you can imagine if we have, 100 IPs, we're throwing Nessus at it. We're trying to see what vulnerabilities we have. You start your scan and then, go have a sandwich or something and come back later, but we won't have to do this. Okay, as we are looking at this, hopefully you guys see some things that we would report to a client. We see, first of all, we have information disclosure or version information. We see that we have a Microsoft IIS and we see the specific version number, which is 10.0. We would report that to a client. And we also have the ASP.NET version 4.030.319. We would report that to a client as well. So let's go ahead. When I do this on OneNote, I have a separate thing for vulnerabilities. Let's see if I can do that in here. So if I do this, and we'll call it findings like that. If I do that, and then if I add, we'll just do it right here. So we'll call this version disclosure like that. I'm gonna make this big so we can see it. Switch over to our terminal here, and we'll grab a screenshot of that information for the client. Like that, and then I always try to highlight for the client, like here's what I'm referring to, so when it goes in the report they can very clearly see, like here is what the guy is talking about. And we'll take that and we'll drop it into our notes. So there we have a screenshot of version disclosure. That would likely be an informational finding that we would report to the client. Glance over at actually before I glance at the chat, let me drop back down to our stuff here. Is Nmap done? Okay, Nmap is done. So here's the second part of my Nmap scan. I'll do Nmap-P, and then I'll specify all these ports. You can do this automatically with Auto Recon, but I'm just used to Nmap, and this is how I passed the OSCP, and I didn't miss anything. A big thing about OSCP is enumeration, and doing it manually, my enumeration was solid. All right, I think I got them all there, 49669. Those probably aren't important, but we'll include them. -A is how I do it for an aggressive scan. relevant.thm and -v for verbose mode. We'll fire that off. It should go a lot faster. Now I'll look over at the chat. You guys find Nikto to be reliable? I do. Yep. Are you planning to do any AD related rooms? Yes. And actually, if you go to my YouTube page, I have a 24 video series on hacking Active Directory. But yes, I will do some AD rooms. Maybe this is one. I really don't know. I haven't done this one before. It doesn't look like it's AD because I'm not seeing those services open, but absolutely, I'll do some AD stuff. Are you planning on going for your OSWE next? No. Maybe one day, but not yet. What I'm actually focused on right now is a few things. One is API hacking. I'm going through the Hacking APIs by Corey Ball, I believe is his name. It says API Sec University, just because it's more relevant to my job. And also the Burp Suite certification. I didn't use Burp Suite much until I became a legit pen tester because I only had the community edition and things are so rate limited. Now I have the pro edition, so I've been learning how to use Burp Suite better, and I want to get their cert, honestly, just for my own learning. I don't think it stands out on a resume or anything. Have you run WAP Appalizer built with to figure out what the site is made of? I haven't on this particular one. I mean, we haven't even opened it, but yes, in the real engagements, I absolutely do that. Have you used Zap? I have used Zap. But now I use Burp Suite just because I have access to the pro version through my job. DJ said, good to use multiple enumeration tools to paint a bigger picture. I agree. Tyler Ramsbey fan, who has the best name, says, are you using any tools to record commands to include them in your reports? I am not. So I manually do it when I have an exploit or a proof of concept. I take screenshots and walk them through it that way. You could record your terminal. I just don't. Maybe if I was doing like an internal pen test on an AD network, I probably would, because there'd be a lot more things to include in that way. Lightshot was used for the screenshots. Yes, it was. I should have mentioned that. Lightshot is amazing. So much better than the Windows snipping tool. Oh man. Okay. I got a lot of questions over here. I'll try to keep hitting them, but I also want to dive into the pen test. But I'll do my best to answer questions as they come up. Someone said, was the OSCP harder or easier than you thought it would be? Honestly, easier. For me, I shared a video on YouTube of how I passed it. Basically, I was stuck for 5 hours and I was close to giving up because I couldn't get anywhere for 5 hours. And then I figured out where I was unstuck. And then in 3 hours, I got to 80 points and passed the exam. So it took me a total of 8 hours, but for the first 5 hours, I was stuck. So I got 80 points in the last 3 hours. The biggest thing is enumeration. I can't say more than that because OffSec will get mad at me. Baller course, APIs high demand. I agree, and APIs are confusing to me, which is why I'm going through the course. What web proxy testing tool did you use during the OSCP? I can't share that. Like legit, OffSec has very strict about talking about the exam, so I can't share anything about what I used or didn't use on the exam. Are you using a report template of any kind? So in my actual job, we have cool software that helps us with the report. If we get to writing a report for this, we'll just have to manually find a template online. But if you work for a legit pen testing firm, usually you have some software built in that helps write really cool looking reports. Someone said, I love Flameshot for screenshots. Never heard of it. Someone said, me too. I'll have to check that out. And anything specific that can help a job candidate stand out to Rhino Security. Yeah, so actually, I made a video. I keep saying, look at my videos. I made a video, if you go to my YouTube, where I said, I think it's called I Am a Professional Hacker. Rhino Security actually told me no initially, or like, you're not at the spot that we want you to be at. And they said, let's talk in 10 days. And in 10 days, I wrote a sample pen test report on the Juice Shop application. I went through a bunch of PortSwigger Academy. I documented the first 10 modules step by step, how to repeat each attack. I did a bunch of work. And they ended up saying, yeah, like, you got a lot to learn, but you showed us you can learn it. So yeah, someone said, tell him Tyler sent you. I don't know if I have that much weight at Rhino yet. It's an awesome company. Everyone there is so much smarter than me. It's an honor to be on the team. But if you check out that video on YouTube, you can see what I did to land this job, because I definitely was not qualified. I have no pen testing experience. I have no bug bounty experience. But I got the job somehow, and I'm pumped about that. All right, someone said, when you get stuck in enumeration, is it a problem with not reading the results of your tools or not running the right tools? I guess it depends on the person. For me, it's always the result of not reading. And you guys might need to help me, because when I stream, I don't know if you guys have the same issue. if I'm not talking and explaining while I go, it's a lot easier for me to hack stuff. When I'm trying to stream, explain, look over at the Twitch chat, it's really easy for me to miss small things. And that's what I usually miss in enumeration. Take note of everything. Even if you don't know for sure if it'll be interesting, you might always come back to it. Okay. We have our results done. So I'll show you guys what I do now that I have these results. If I highlight all of this stuff, I highlight my full scan. Of course, you can save it as well so you can grep through it, because we just have this one box here. We can just manually do it. And what I'll do is can I just do another blueberry or something here? Can I call this InMap? There we go. So here are our scan results. I try to make them just a little bit neater by spacing out between the different services. We'll go through here. I don't think that's just MSRPC. That's HTTP though. Oh, there's a web server. Is that a web server? Yeah, I guess it is. Isn't that interesting? We might have to run Derby against that as well. Web server on an uncommon port. And this goes with the SMB stuff. Someone said, Lauren MJ, I lose my train of thought all the time while streaming. Me too. And I make the silliest mistakes, but it's like, you know, like people don't realize how difficult it is to like learn and stream at the same time. So I told you guys, I haven't worked through this box, so I don't know what we're going to encounter, and I'm trying to explain it while I do it. It's a lot more difficult than it looks. And you miss silly things while you do it that way. But okay. Here's what I like to do. We have HTTP here. So I'll literally just copy my results from my InMap scan, and we'll post it here so we can get that started. And if we do another one, I believe we had, what was it, SMB type stuff open, 135, 139, 445. I think all those ports are open. And we'll go like that. We'll grab InMap, and we'll grab this information down right here, and we'll drop that in our SMB blueberry. If anyone uses cherry tree, please tell me the correct terminology I'm supposed to be using on these maybe nodes. Maybe it's nodes. Maybe I don't call them blueberries. I have no idea. Let's go back to here. This is all information for that. And what else is on our InMap scan? So we have RDP. So we'll do an RDP one. 3389. And the other difficult part is when I'm doing my job, guys, I have 4 monitors. I have 3 big monitors in my laptop, and I'm using all my monitors, so it throws me off doing all of this on one screen. Usually, you know, I'm not switching back and forth. I just have this pulled up on another monitor, which is super helpful than doing it this way, but we'll make it work either way. Okay, so we have RDP pulled up. And now here is something that's interesting to me. We have what appears to be a web server, another web server running on that port, 49663, I think. 49663 like that. And it could just be a service running, but I mean, we see server information there. So I'm assuming it is a web server. Okay, I'm going to look over at the chat. Joe Fro said, a quick story. I was working in a small cybersecurity MSP doing sales, which is cold calling. I started getting to TryHackMe. Eventually, after 2 to 3 months of doing THM, and got in the top 4%. Nice. I turned to my boss and asked to shadow someone on pen test and prove to him I can pen test. I ended up shadowing the pen test and doing well. My boss liked my work and hired me on the team as a consultant. Dude, that is awesome. Congratulations, my friend. Looking over at the chat. Lauren MJ said, you're uploading this to YouTube afterwards. Right, you got it. I'm recording it locally to my machine, and if something goes wrong with there, I'll pull it from Twitch and upload it that way. But yes, it will be up there. Hey, I got rated with a party of 5. What is up? Welcome to the stream. And someone said, is Cherry Tree the only one for notes, or are there better options? I use OneNote. I could show you guys. Well, I'm not going to pull it up. I use OneNote most of the time. I'm only using Cherry Tree because I wanted to keep everything inside this Linux VM that I'm using, because I have OBS on one screen, Twitch on one screen, and Discord on another screen, and I don't want to be pulling OneNote back and forth. But there's a lot of really good tools. I've never used Cherry Tree. This is the first time I use Cherry Tree for this. So it's not natural to me to use Cherry Tree, but I think it's going to work well. But okay, we see a few things, and we're going to enumerate this port by port. We already have one finding, right? We have version disclosure right here. but we can start with what's usually low-hanging fruit, which is HTTP. Now, in a real pen test, or this is an external pen test, which this would be kind of like an external pen test. We have an IP and we're seeking to access it. You'll often have like 80, 90, 100 IPs. And what you'll do is you'll run a tool called Eyewitness. Eyewitness is a really cool tool that you can put in your target range, so like 100 IPs, and it will go to each one of them and take a screenshot of what is running on ports 80 and 443, and then you can save time by looking at those screenshots and see, is there any login portals or anything interesting that we should enumerate further? Because as you can imagine, if you have 4 days of testing, you have 100 IPs to test, you can't manually go to each one. So Eyewitness is an incredible tool to see what might be running on different web servers. We won't need to use it for this, of course. What YouTube account, Nate or Tyler? Tyler, I'm Tyler. So if you go to the description, you can find me. My YouTube account is where you'll see all of this information, as well as a bunch of other videos I create. I usually release content, 3 to 4 days a week, and I also stream pretty often as well. But every stream I do gets posted on YouTube as soon as I'm done. So if you subscribe to me on YouTube, you'll get all the cool information there. I'm doing a lot of talking. I need a drink of water. This is the most people I've had watching too. So guys, thank you for hanging out with me. I really do appreciate it. It is fun doing this. Okay, but like I was saying, we'll begin doing this one port at a time. Here's more information disclosure, right? We already included this before on our NICTO scan, but this is a different port, and that would be an informational level finding that you would report to a client saying, hey, your server is reporting back the version information that is running on there. But okay, we have port 80 open, so let's go ahead and begin enumerating port 80, and we already started doing that a little bit with Derby. We are using the default word list. We might get better results with a different word list, but as you can see, we're not seeing much. And then we have NICTO over here. I'm going to glance through here. Oh, so server banner has changed from that to that, which may suggest a WAF, web application firewall. I doubt that's running. Load balancer or proxy is in place. We have our allowed HTTP methods, options, trace, get, head, post. Get, head, post, and are normal. Options and trace aren't too normal. You can't really do much to exploit them. Options will sometimes tell you what methods are allowed. Trace, I think you can do some weird vulnerability, but I don't know how to do the vulnerability, so we're going to ignore that. Let's go ahead and open this up, and I could show, I don't know if I have my paid version of Burp Suite on here or not. We could open it in the Burp browser. I don't think I have Foxy Proxy configured, and we could just navigate the website that way. Let me see if I even have it. So if we go to opt, oh, look at that. Cool. We can do it in Burp Suite Pro and check it out that way. Looking over here, Firkin said, I remember a burp lab where Trace returned a response with the IP it was expecting to validate access to an admin page. Oh, interesting. So you could see like an internal IP with that. That would definitely be a finding. Come on, Burp Suite. I believe in you. Thank you. And we'll just use the browser built into Burp for the sake of time. Someone says, probably better not to use Burp Pro because most people won't be able to use it due to cost. I know that a little bit, but I want to use Burp Pro because I want you guys to see what it's like in the day-to-day and the features Burp Pro offers, because I wasn't aware of these things until I became a pen tester because I only had Community Edition. I want to show you guys some of the cool stuff Burp Pro does with the automatic scanner as you navigate through a website, which of course is not available on the Community Edition. Unfortunately, I believe Burp Pro is like $400 a year, so it's not super expensive, but you don't need it. You can do some of this stuff with like Python scripting. I'm just not smart enough to do that. So if we go to our website, and this is all we have here. So there could be something like through Dirtbuster. I wonder if Dirtbuster is going to find anything. I doubt there's going to be anything in the page source since it's just your standard Windows server here. This might be a dead end, It's just chilling here. If this was a client and I saw, okay, there's nothing here. Derby didn't come up with anything by the basic word list. Nikto just has version information. I do see this. This would be something to report to a client, is this right here. So if we copy that, we'll open up Cherry Tree and we'll do another one, clickjacking. So what clickjacking is, you can, if you just Google it, Portswigger has a thing that you can, it's basically HTML, and you plug the website into the HTML and it puts a frame around it, which on the surface is like, well, what's the big deal? Well, then it can be used for various phishing attacks and things like that. When the anti-clickjacking X-frame option is not present. Once again, this would be an informational finding, maybe a low finding, but more informational, but it would be something that you would report to a client. But you wouldn't just report this. What I would do is I would then take the website, I would put it into the HTML, I would take a picture of it inside of an attacker-controlled frame, and then I would put that in the report as a proof of concept for the client. Okay, so we have clickjacking down, looking over here, glancing through the chat. Might have a hidden login admin page somewhere. You're right. I'd focus on rescanning the directories with another tool like Fearbuster or checking the other ports. We can. He can use GoBuster, DoBuster, and see how things go. GoBuster, super powerful. We can use Durbuster. Would you add some sort of explanation along with that picture? Absolutely. So what I'm doing here is my live notes when I'm doing a pen test. What I do, so I work 8 a.m. to 5, but I really just hack from 8 a.m. to 4. The last hour of every day for me, so from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. is when I work on my report for the client, and I'm just taking this as screenshots. But when I actually write the report, what I'll do is I explain what clickjacking is. I explain what can happen as a result of clickjacking. We explain specific remediation steps, how you would remediate in your environment. And then we also have a proof of concept where we demonstrate step by step, here's how you can replicate this vulnerability so that when you fix it, you know whether or not you fixed it. So yes, we provide way more information for a client in an actual pen test. But while I'm working through the pen test, I'm just taking notes for my own personal benefit. So when I get to the end of the day, I can add these to my report. Let's see. And D. Crusson said, definitely, ultimately, your report is aimed at helping the client, not to show what an amazing hacker you are. 100%. All right, well, let's go ahead and try Durbuster just so we can cover all of our grounds. Durbuster has a GUI interface, so for those of you who want GUI more than command line, Durbuster can be helpful. We'll see if it opens up for us. Foxeye said, how many systems does Rhino hack into daily? Are they new or existing clients? I'm not going to talk about Rhino just because I don't have explicit permission to share about Rhino. So I'm not going to answer that question for now. But it is a good question. So what we're doing here is typing in the field. Remember, we saved to our Etsy host as relevant.thm. We're specifying the port, which is port 80. There is that other web server, which is interesting. I always do go faster. Here's 200 threads. You wouldn't do this in a production environment just because that's a lot of stuff to throw at it, but this is more CTF-y. We could change our file extensions too if there's something interesting, but we'll keep it as PHP now. And let's see. I usually do this in Kali. I'm assuming it's the same here. Is it user, share, wordless, hopefully. That's how it is in Kali. Yep, wordless, and then Durbuster. And we'll do the medium one. We'll get a little more at it, and we'll start doing it. And the nice thing about this is you can kind of see the results in tree view as you see them. Getting a phone call. One of you guys might be calling me from 1-800 number trying to sell me something. So we have a bunch of errors here. Obviously, that's not going to work. All right. We'll close that out. I'm going to move on. We might come back to this, but I'm just going to make a note on here of what we tested. So Nikto found version information, which you also see above from the IMAP scan. Derby with default wordless didn't find anything. Durbuster doesn't like me. Might come back to if we get stuck. So that is port 80. The next thing is we can check some stuff with SMB client is the name of it. Firkin said, we're trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. Honestly, probably what it was. I should have answered and put on speakerphone. Someone said, is there any difference when using a bigger word list apart from the time it takes to test the entire word list? I don't think so. You'll just get more coverage, right? There might be something in the word list there. Someone said, maybe go back to Dirbuster but send less connections at once. We could try that real quick before we check out SMB. We could just even keep it at the default. We'll do like 29 threads instead of 200. That's going to be slow, but we'll see if that's the issue. So once again, we'll go to users, share. If you're following on Kali, this is the same spot it is in Kali Linux because Kali is what I'm most used to. Oh, you should probably add the target. That's a good thing to do. So it knows what to scan. Let's see what it's going to do. Apparently it's going to freeze. Okay. We'll let it sit. Nicto's still running. We'll let Nicto keep running. I doubt it's going to find anything more. SMB, I don't even remember the syntax, honestly. Gosh, I do need to pull up my hacking guide real quick, and I'll show it to you guys. My sweet hacking guide. Here it is. If you become my Patreon, I'll send this to you. This is where, from different courses I've done, I include all my notes for literally everything. And just when I need to remember, like SMB, it's SMB client something. Let's see. There's certain things I can't show you guys because I have OSCP lab type stuff in here. Let's see. This is all attacking enterprise networks is fine. I think I have it just in information gathering or scanning enumeration. SMB, it's just SMB client -L. Okay, so I was thinking -L for list, and then we type in the IP. Got it. So SMB client -L, relevant.thm. I think it's like that. And it may be that we don't have, this only works if it allows access without creds. Oh, we need to use the IP, I think. I don't think it'll work with the name. It's not going to resolve the name. So let's ping relevant.thm if I could type right. And let's try it with the IP, SMB client -L 10.10.19.206, like that. Okay. Look at that. Are you selling access to your notes on Patreon? Kind of. So I just started my Patreon, but I'll give them to you for free. You just won't get the offensive security side of it. And honestly, even the offensive security, it's not like my exam that's on there. It's just my notes from their Pen 200 course, so it's nothing super special. But yes, I can send you my notes. It just won't have the OffSec stuff in it, but it'll have everything else. But yeah, on Patreon, if you have the financial ability to support me, feel free. Otherwise, shoot me a message on LinkedIn or Discord, and I'll send them to you free of charge. I don't want Patreon to be like a paywall for people, so I'll send them to you. Maybe try adding the host file. I did actually add it to the host file, but for SMB client, it won't resolve it properly. So relevant THM, I added it to the host file, but we have to do it by IP here. And now, hopefully you guys see what's interesting to me. So we have this network server right here, and this is also a vulnerability. So let's go ahead and grab a screenshot of this, and let's highlight this right here. We'll copy that. We'll open up our cherry tree. We'll go to findings and authentication not required on SMB. Right. Obviously, if this is an external pen test and this is open to the internet, you do not want this publicly exposed to the internet. I mean, it shouldn't be exposed at all. If it is, there should be authentication required. We authenticated to it without any type of credentials, and we see there's this network server that's being exposed here. So that is a finding, that is a vulnerability, and we can also post that over in our SMB here, just so we have our note here that we have that exposed, and we'll dig into it a little bit more. So let's open Parrot back up, or open Terminal back up. Now what we can do is if we do SMB client, going off memory, but if we go like this and type in our IP again, and then we can try to connect to that share for work server. I think that's the syntax. Not enough characters. Okay, we need another slash. ls. And we have a passwords.txt in this publicly exposed SMB share, right? That part's probably not realistic, but we can take a picture of this. Like, obviously this should not be exposed to the internet, and we don't know what's in the passwords.txt. You know, this could be a honeypot or something like that, but we'll grab that down and we'll just see what kind of information is in this passwords.txt file before we truly report it to the client. Maybe it's just like a joke. So get passwords.txt, error opening local file passwords.txt. Is it not get? Maybe it's not get. Maybe, no, I'm pretty sure it's get. Trying to think of how to get this. I'm almost certain it's a get, but maybe I'm wrong. All right, accessing file shares. Maybe you have to exfiltrate it. We might have to. Let's see what, I'm pretty sure it's get, or it's not put. Put is how you put it in there. Yeah, get, put, and exit. Okay, so I'm using the right command. And yeah, maybe it's not available at the moment. That's likely as well. I want it though. That looks too interesting just to let it be there. Come on, type. What do you mean error opening local file? Don't tell me error open. I want that file. Yo, I want passwords.txt. I don't think that, yeah, that doesn't do anything in SMB client. There's a way, I think, that you can display it, right? We might be able to display it. IT Pro today. And this is the other thing that everyone in IT does, including pen testers, is we Google everything. Sending messages to work. Okay, I don't really care about that. Display browse lists. I don't have that. Connecting to SMB shares. We don't have creds. Transferring files. Get file name. Toggle the tells. Blah, blah. Doesn't have a command. Pauses before transferring each file. Helpful tidbits. End command with dash. Okay. Let's try it. Oh, if I can open the right window. Oh, you guys are beautiful. And hopefully you guys notice. Well, if you don't, that's okay. These look like base 64 encoded type stuff. So we will want to take a screenshot of this as well. You know, we have passwords being stored. Base 64 encoding is not like a secure encryption mechanism. So we'll grab that and drop it here. And we'll go over to our findings and we will say passwords.txt with base 64 encoded passwords on the SMB server. We have that there, and now we can go ahead and decode it. There's a few different ways you can decode it. I mean, the easiest, because I always forget the syntax in the terminal. I mean, the syntax in the terminal, you pipe it out, and it's like, it might just be base 64 to code, to be honest. It might be something as simple as that. But, you know, I'm clearly not an elite hacker. So if I can copy, there we go, like that. And okay, it's legit the person in their password. That's interesting. I wonder if these passwords actually work or if this is just like a rabbit hole they're sending us on. Oh, did I get too much stuff in that one? Well, we have Bob here. Poor Bob. Bob's in trouble. Bob is in trouble. Now, the question is, do the credentials actually work, right? I have no idea. But we'll take a screenshot of that. Go to our cherry tree. And well, there's going to be a lot of vulnerabilities here. So we found Bob's credentials. And we'll go over to our findings. That's kind of part of that up there. Like that. And Bob's a bad boy. Look, I mean, his password's kind of secure, I guess. Kind of. I mean, he used special characters for what it's worth. I'm just curious if I keep opening the wrong terminal. If I copied the wrong thing, I assume this one goes up to here. Right? Oh, yeah, there it is. So Bill's in trouble too. We got Bill and Bob. Know what they're doing with their lives, but storing their passwords in this way is a no-no. So we'll copy that, pull up cherry tree. We'll put that in our findings, and we'll also put it over here in SMB as we do our enumeration. Oh, can I paste them next to each other? Sweet. Now, what I want to do is, I don't think I actually did this. I don't think I created a folder for this stuff. Let's go ahead and, actually, while I still have this open, I want to, and we'll go to home, Tyler, and we'll make a directory for TryHackMe because I apparently don't have one yet. And we'll make a directory for relevant. Okay. And if we do pluma creds.txt like that, I just want to save their creds here so it's easy for us to grab them when we need them. So we'll do Bill. Job Bill. Very secure. And then we got Bob. Let's grab Bob's password here. Or his whole thing. And there we got Bob's credentials. Go back to our creds. All right, we got Bill and we have Bob. We have their creds. Someone said they're brothers. They probably are. Let's go ahead and save that. We can exit that out. Now, if we cat creds, then we have our creds there. We can easily copy and paste or do whatever we need. Now I'm curious if we can authenticate to SMB as Bill or Bob using their credentials that were leaked. I don't know if we can or not, but we can always try it. We are at the 1 hour mark. So, hey guys, what I'm going to do is let's take a 5-minute break and I will come back and we'll hang out in 5 more minutes. So I will be back in 5 minutes. Get up, get a drink of water, use the bathroom, whatever you need to do. And let's hack some more stuff in 5 minutes. Be right back. Yo, sorry guys, I missed I missed that the countdown was at 0. So it just said be here soon. I was here, but I was typing to you guys on Twitch. But I am back. What is up, everyone? Let's get back into some more hacking. Share my screen. Pick up where we left off. We had the credentials for Bill and Bob, who must be brothers. And Bill and Bob, we took them from the SMB share, which there's nothing else in here that is interesting to us for now, but there's a few things I want to try. One is if SSH was open, we could try to SSH, but as you can see, it's not open. RDP is open though. So, it's possible we could RDP into the machine as Bob or Bill. That would be one method of attack. Since we're already on SMB, I want to see if we can authenticate as Bill or Bob through SMB. The question is, like I said before, I always forget the syntax. And let's see if I have them in my notes. I know I have them somewhere. If I go to boxes, do you guys see boxes? There we go. If I go to boxes and we'll go to these are all, oh well. Here's where I was going to do it on OneNote since I'm used to OneNote. I just like the way OneNote looks. For those of you in the chat, what note-taking software do you guys use? Okay, we don't want to go to the OSCP ones. SMB client, here we go. So here is our syntax, SMB client -u, and then we're specifying the shares. So something along those lines, and we're entering in the password. People over here are saying, HunterBot said, I'd like to use CrackMap Gazette to test if the creds work. That's actually a much better idea. Someone says Sublime for note-taking. Others one said Joplin. Gedit, Obsidian, Notion all the way. Notion is awesome. Pentest.ws, I've heard about that as well. That's like an online cloud service, right? My only hesitancy on that, like for clients, is storing data out in the cloud, but I think they have an option where you can have it on premise. But for CTFs, for sure, would work fine. So yeah, let's try CrackMap exec. Is it CME? CrackMap exec. Okay, I know it's here. What's it called in Parrot? All right, guys, here's the problem when I'm used to Kali. I'm sure it's on here. Oh, is it really not? If you want to use a tool, you can install CME in a few different ways according to what you find easiest. I'm just surprised it's not actually on here. Oh well, we'll come back to that. I'm going to do it the old school way then with SMB client to test the creds, but we'll want to get that installed, but I might do it offline. You guys don't need to watch me install it. So I think it's SMB client -u, and if we do Bill, and then do we just do the IP, which obviously that's my Patreon. Don't do that. Don't log in my Patreon as Bill. So is it SMB client -u Bill, and then do we try the IP? Nope. Oh, capital U? Maybe? I wonder if we have to specify relevant. Let's do that. So if we do that, and if we do, okay, slash needs to go the other way. There we go. So that's the name of the workgroup or domain. I don't even know what it is on this machine, but it's that. And if we grab Bill's password here, so copy it. What tab was I on right here? Oh, it has grabbed a space at the end. Dumb. Let's try it again. Okay, well, that didn't do anything. But I didn't get an error. Maybe something happened wrong in the password part of it. If we do Bob, I'm going to right click this time, paste, enter. Nothing. If anyone sees what I am doing wrong, holler at me. Why do we need all those flashes in the SMB client syntax? I don't know. Something with network paths. Oh, Firkin said, I've gathered it's for character escaping in Linux. You can use that. Maybe Tyler can elaborate. Nope, I can't. I just know that if I don't use enough slashes, it yells at me. Oh, yeah, no share specified. Duh. Thank you, sir. So SMB client-L. I don't remember what the name of that share was. I mean, I could look at my notes, but we'll do this 10.10.19.206 like that. So let's see if we can authenticate to, I mean, really any of them would work. Well, not admin. Admin probably wouldn't work, but we should be able to authenticate to like the default share as them. At least I'd assume we can. So if we do C like that, I wonder if that would work at all. Let me grab Bob's password in case I didn't still have it copied. Access denied. So his creds did not work for that anyways, for the default share. And, you know, there's a chance, knowing that this is more of a CTF type box, that these creds aren't actually useful. They were so easy to find, if you know what I mean. Like, we just looked there and there was a file called passwords.txt. And from when I was prepping for the OSCP, you know, generally, if you find something that obvious, it's not actually going to work. It's going to be a rabbit hole. Yeah, NT access denied. We can try to RDP X. Trying to think of what the client name is called. I always used Remina. Oh, is Remina on here? Sweet. So Remina is not on Kali by default. I had to install it. I think we can use our name like that. And let's go ahead and try. Let's try Bill first, shall we? Control-Shift-C. Amoeba Man, what is up, my friend? He said access denied is at least good because it means that the creds are valid on the box. Try with the wrong password and you should see a different error message. Good point. We'll try that. As soon as I try Remina, I doubt Remina will work, but, you know, we'll try it. Whose password did I just copy? I don't remember. Let's start with Bill. You guys probably just watched me copy Bill, but as I told you, I get distracted on stream. So let's try Bill, password. We try relevant for the domain. Cannot connect. Let's try it without that domain. Bill, password, connect. Cannot connect. I don't think this is going to work, at least this part of it. Bob, password. There. Pull that up. Pull that up. Pull that up. Thank you. And grab it there. SSH is not open on the box. I know a few of you said SSH, but that is not a service that is available on this box, so we cannot use SSH. So Amoeba Man said, try different creds for SMB client. You should get a different error message. I'm just curious now on that. Which terminal was I doing that in? Not this one. Not this one. So I'm going to do like cat for Bill. Oh, we get the same message. Access denied. Even if I do wrong creds, what if I do like relevant and I say Tyler is awesome. Cat. Access denied. Looking over here, a meme man said Remina is great, but doesn't give you feedback as to why it could not connect. Strangely, the best thing to use is Windows RDP, since it will say whether it's a credential or permission issue. That's a good point. And Amoeba Man's the one who told me back in the day you need a Windows hacking box, which is on my other machine. I still don't have it on this machine. But yeah, Windows hacking boxes are helpful. I always just did everything on my host, but then there was one time where I don't know if it's a meme man or someone else like sent me some weird thing, and I was like, all right, let's open this on my host machine and see what malware I get, which is obviously never a good idea. So then that encouraged me to create my own Windows hacking box. But let's go back to our notes. All right, so far we have a few things that we found. We have version disclosure in a few different places. We have clickjacking that would be possible. Now, I don't know if you would really report clickjacking for like an external pen test, but if this is a web app pen test, you would of course report that. We reported that authentication isn't required on the SMB server, right? We were able to connect to it without any credentials. And we found a passwords.txt file with base64 encoded passwords on the SMB server. We, of course, could not do much with those creds, at least not yet, but they might come back into play later. Either way, the client needs to be aware that, hey, you don't want this out there unless it truly is a honeypot. But if we're testing one IP, I'd assume it's not a honeypot. And then we had port 80. Port 80 here, which we couldn't find anything, right? Nicto found version information, but we couldn't find much else. I think, were we running Durbuster for a while? We are. As you can see, Durbuster hasn't found anything either. I'm just going to stop that. I doubt it's going to find anything. I'm going to say port 80 has nothing for us besides the version stuff. SMB, we might come back to this. Those creds didn't work. Maybe I did something wrong. We'll come back if we get stuck, or if we find different creds somewhere else, we'll come back to this for sure and try to re-authenticate and access a different share once we have valid creds. RDP is on the box. Once again, if we can find valid creds, we can attempt to RDP into the machine and see what happens. Here is where I think we're going to find some interesting stuff. If you remember from our Nmap scan, we have a web server running on an uncommon port 49663. Very curious what might be hosted there. So we can redo what we did, right? So if we do derby relevant.thm, I think that'd be the correct syntax. Let's run derby against it. And while derby is running with the basic thing, we can also run nicto against it as well. We just repeat our command from before. Specify the port. And for those of you who are new to this, the reason I'm doing that is normally it would connect on port 80. So if you want to connect to a different web port, you have to specify it in that way. So we'll hit it with nicto. We'll hit it with derby. And you can already see we have information disclosure again for that. So just on both of their web servers, we would report that to the client as an informational finding. You don't want to be providing us with the version information of what is running on your web server. Even this is something that was confusing to me when I first started. Like, even if there's no vulnerabilities for it, it's still an informational finding because it could be used for a wider attack chain, or maybe a vulnerability comes out. Either way, it's just not a good idea to report back your version information via Nmap or a nicto scan or via HTTP responses. Drink of water. All right. Let's go ahead and check it out. We have our burp browser here. We can look at it on here. We'll see if it connects for us. So same thing, just blank Windows server. I have a feeling there's more that we're going to find on this one. There's a reason it's running on an uncommon port. We'll just have to see if our scans find anything that might be of interest to us. Derby's doing its thing. If you guys have any ideas, I am all ears. I want to make sure we didn't miss anything in our scans. So if I look back at Nmap here, we have port 80, we have SMB, we have RDP, and there's not really much like pen testing you can do with RDP unless you have creds. You could try to like brute force and stuff, but it's not going to be very fruitful. We have RPC, so if we get some type of creds, we could use RPC client. I've used that before to like update a password. Looking over here, J Ramo, good point. J Ramo said finding you might want to report as SMB signing disabled. That's actually a great point. Good call. and we'll just take a screenshot of that entire thing. I mean, here's more information. It's providing us with the actual server there. We've already reported that vulnerability, and if this is an actual client, I'd come back and let them know about that as well. But we have message signing is disabled, dangerous but default. That allows for a few different attacks that we could perform. So we'll drop that on here. We have that for the client. And let's go back to Derby. Okay. We have a directory here for the client. We could do some research on this. So Burt Pro, we're not going to see much here, but you can see some things that would show you when you use Burt Pro. It's actively scanning the website. Really helpful in a web app assessment, but you can see the frameable response we found before is this potential clickjacking. It provides information on it. Once again, when I report something like this to the client, though, you'd actually do it, right? You would get a screenshot of the website or like a login field, especially being in an iframe controlled by you as the attacker. We have unencrypted communications, of course, because it's just HTTP. But you can sometimes find some cool things with this. And this isn't even doing a scan. This just scans it actively as you manually spider and browse through the website. Cyber Insight Canada said, yeah, HunterBot said, where'd you find those passwords? Yes, in an internet-facing SMB share. That is correct. Cyber Insight Canada said, go to the network server from that port. Interesting. We can try that. Yeah, Derby hasn't found anything else. Let's go back to here. Let's try that. So we have that share that's being exposed. And, you know, one thing I didn't check that we should have checked, anytime you have a share like that, you should check, can I write to the share? Because if you can write to the share, there's also some cool things you can do. And if that share is being hosted out publicly on the internet and we can write to the share, we could pop a shell, essentially ASP X shell or ASP shell, depending on what we have. So that's a good call. Does this work? I may have typed that wrong. Let's see what that share was called again. We'll try it on both of those ports. I mean, I doubt it's port 80. Oh yeah, I think I just typed it wrong. Oh, no way. Did we actually... Is it actually seeing something there? Come on, Bert, pull up. Oh my goodness, it's discovering it. So it does seem like that share is being hosted publicly. We have an HTTP status 200 OK because, see guys, if we change this to like something non-existent, we're going to get 404 not found. So that tells us that share is being hosted on a web server on an uncommon port. Let's go ahead and grab that. And for a few reasons, one, let's post it here because we need to dig into this more. I'm very curious if we can write to that share. We should have checked that right away. But the SMB share is accessible on HTTP port 49663. We'll post that there as a result that is an OK. And now let's see if we can write to that share. And the way we can do that is we'll just take out our -L and we'll connect to the share here since no authentication is required, like that. Actually, before we do this, let me cd to home, Tyler, TryHackMe, relevant, and let's echo test to test.txt like that. And now let's go ahead and connect to the share. And let's see if we can put test.txt there. Oh my goodness, it actually works. So I bet if we go out here and do test.txt. Oh, I got a proxy on. Let's turn that off. We can write to the web server. We are going to get a shell, but let's slow down, because once again, in a real pen test, we're often not getting something like this, but we can write to the share, and if we do ls, we can see that it's written there. So let's go ahead and copy a few of these things down. And I'm telling you guys, even like a real pen test, it's such a rush. It's still crazy to me that I get paid to do this. Like, I spent so much time, and those of you who have been hanging out with me on Twitch for a long time, like Amoeba Man, HunterBot, you guys can vouch. Like, I spent hours upon hours in the evenings doing this thing for fun, and now I get to do it during the day to like real companies. I feel like I'm just playing TryHackMe and Hack the Box and getting paid for it. It is a blast. But okay, I don't even know what I just took a screenshot of. Oh yeah, that. So SMB share is writable by anonymous users. You know, that's like a critical vulnerability, especially in the fact that I can write to the web server. So if we pull this out and just grab a screenshot of this as well, we can get the URL in there. And of course, there is my file I uploaded there. Which is then hosted by the web server there. Hey, we get some raiders, a party of 13. What up, raiders? Good to have you hanging out with us. Is the findings tab the final report, or are you going to show us a fully finished report as well? You know, that's a good question. No, this definitely is not the final report. When you're doing a real report for a client, you're providing a lot more information on it, which I'm not going to re-explain myself. I explained it earlier. I know some of you already heard my explanation. But yeah, so my goal, hopefully, we're not going to be able to do it all tonight, but hopefully this becomes kind of a series, and we work all the way through this, all the way to a pen test report. When I do pen test reports for clients, we have cool software that helps with a lot of that, but I'll find like a template and we'll manually do a pen test report and see what we can learn that way. If any, I mean, it's kind of boring watching it, but maybe I'll do like a smaller one where we at least document each vulnerability and suggested remediations and things like that, and proof of concept, how we exploited it. We'll see how we go. But also, I'm new to writing reports. Maybe we could pull Amoeba Man in sometime and he can teach us all how to write awesome reports. Okay, so we have this all there. Did we also document it here? We didn't, so I just want to, can I just copy it? Is that copying? I don't know. Did that copy? Oh yeah, I did. Okay. So like I said before, I've never used Cherry Tree until right now. I like it. I think I still prefer OneNote, but gosh, it's pretty smooth. Screenshots seem to work good. So do it. Amoeba said I can QA for you. Perfect. All right, another drink of water, guys. Too much talking. So, for those of you who know what happens next, now we should be able to get remote code execution, which is critical vulnerability. I don't think you're likely to discover this on a real external pen test. You know, generally when you do an external pen test, the IPs, whatever machine is pretty hardened, because if there is a vulnerability that leads to remote code execution, you and I aren't going to be the first ones who find it. It's already going to have been exploited in the past. Let's go ahead and I'll show you guys. We might actually have some on here. I wonder if we do. I wonder if Parrot has any shells for us to work with. Yeah, close that. Oh, was that Burp that was running on that? Oh, whoops, sorry, Burp. I don't need you anymore, though. If we locate shell.aspx, is it on here? Oh, we have a shell. So let's copy from user, share, whatever his name is. And let's see what this looks like. check if exported to. Okay, there are simpler shells out there. I'm going to use a simpler shell. If you just do reverse shell ASPX GitHub, we should be able to find some. Let's see what we all have access to. So we have this. Here's our host, and here's our IP. This one would probably work just fine. In a legit pen test, I'm just going to pull this thing from GitHub, but if this is a real client's environment, you really do want to slow down and make sure you perform thorough code review or use only things that have been approved by your team, not just random shells on GitHub, because that's a good way to really screw over a client. But for our purposes, something like this should be fine. I'm going to glance over at the chat, take a break from hacking. Overgrown Carrot said, so today I showed a symbolic link in PowerShell and exploited that. Afterwards, I started to mess with SE managed volume priv and exploit and could not get it to work. As far as I know, I have all the proper rights to do it. However, nothing would allow us to get the F on C. Have you ever exploited that privilege? I love Cherry Tree, use it all the time. I have not. HunterBot or Amoeba Man might have some input for you. They're smarter than me. Amoeba Man said maybe not an external, but on a test, I found an internal file share being hosted like this on the internet. So with internal access, you could deploy a web shell and gain persistent access from the internet. IIS just makes it way too easy to host things. Oh, cool. Cool. So this is somewhat realistic. That's exciting. So let's go ahead and copy that. I thought I heard my kids, but I think it's my wife watching a movie above my head. Let's remove our other shell just so we don't get confused, and we'll do shell.aspx like that. We'll drop that in here. I don't even know my IP, to be honest with you. Let's go here, and we'll do IPA. There's our IP. Here's the other thing that's going to be different when you're doing a legit pen test. Of course, your machine does not have like a public IP address. So your pen testing team usually has something hosted in AWS or something similar, or Cobalt Strike, something that's how you get your reverse shell, right? Because that's publicly on the internet. And then from your machine, you connect to that command and control server, and then that's how you interact with the client. Now, that being said, I have not done an internal penetration test, so I haven't actually done that in practice, but my understanding is that's kind of how that would work. You're not just like taking, your 192 IP and trying to get a shell on it. That's not, you're going to get frustrated if you try that. So let's go ahead and grab this. And for our port, usually you want to do something that's open or something that's common so it doesn't look suspicious. I doubt there's a firewall though, and we are elite hackers, so we are of course going to use the port 1337. Obviously, no one will be able to tell that that's an exploit. And let's Control S and save that. And we'll do ncat and do LP 1337. So we're listening on port 1337. Did I save that? I did. Okay, so we can close that. Is this where I... Oh, no. Okay, so SMB client. And it's... No, I don't remember what the IP was for relevant. Like that. Okay, SMB client. 10.10.19.206, and I don't remember what the share was called. We'll get it one of these days. 10.10.19.206. Okay, let's go ahead and connect to that share, and we should be able to throw our shell on there, and if all works, we will get remote code execution on the back end server. Amoeba Man said we can perhaps do a session on Red Team infrastructure to show how to catch internet shells safely. That would be awesome. And Overgrown Carrot said also, if you want some different boxes, I threw some boxes on Vagrant for people to use. Vagrant 1 to 3, they're all AD machines. Oh, awesome. Man, I appreciate that. I'm going to actually grab that link right now on my host machine. You guys won't see what I'm doing because it's on my other screen, but I want to bookmark that. Really appreciate you doing that. Okay. If we put shell.aspx, we have our shell file there. Now for the client, what I would be documenting is the fact that I created that shell file. And what I also think would be helpful is if we grab this and just to document the specific shell that we are using. Good practice as well for the OSCP. This is public information, so I'm not leaking anything. But when you do the OSCP and you modify exploits or use an exploit, you have to document the specific location of the exploit online, which obviously makes sense. And if you modified it, you have to explain what you modified on the exploit. So we uploaded this shell, updated the IP import information, and then of course we started our netcat listener, but we'll take a screenshot of that if we do get a callback on it. Not that terminal, this terminal. Is it there? It is there. So now if we go ahead and copy that, open up Firefox. I don't know about you guys. I hate having a bunch of tabs open. I know some of y'all have like 50 tabs open all the time. I don't know how your guys' brains do that. It reminds me of clutter, and I don't like clutter in general. I don't remember the port. 46693. Am I close? Nope. Okay. 49663. Okay, I mix those numbers up a little bit. 49663. Is that it? Okay, there we go. And if we do that and shell.aspx, I want to double check that I have that shell running on port 1337. Look at that, guys. We have a shell. Beautiful. We'll grab a screenshot of that. Open up Cherry Tree. Just jot down some of the things we found. So we have remote code execution, and I always like in my initial notes just jot down the steps I used, and then when we make the actual penetration test report, we'll make it a little more full. But here's what we did. We uploaded a shell.aspx to the SMB share, navigated to the shell.aspx file via HTTP 49663. We received remote code execution. And here is the other thing in a real environment. This is once again publicly accessible to the internet. And if we were able to get remote code execution on a server that's publicly accessible to the internet, we immediately contact the client, because this is like as critical of a finding as you can have. And we essentially pause our pen test for now. We contact the client directly and we tell them, hey, you need to fix this now, or you need to take this server offline. It is not safe to have this publicly accessible to the internet. It's what is called as like an early disclosure. And it's not just for remote code executions, but that's a big one. A lot of it is work with your team, right? Especially if you're like me and you're an associate pen tester, you're not sure if it requires early disclosure. Talk to someone more senior than you are, talk to a project manager, and just get information there. Better to be safe rather than sorry. We are hired not to destroy the client. We are hired to help the client by hacking stuff before real hackers do it. So when you find something like this, we would stop, we'd contact the client and let them know, hey, you need to fix this immediately. Drink of water again. It is a Windows box. Yeah, I said in the beginning it was a Windows box just based on the ports that were open. And as you do more of these, you'll be able to tell just by what ports are open whether it's a Windows or Linux box. But we have this account right here, which is interesting. If we go to just do some manual enumeration, if we go to users, Windows, Bob, guys, we have Bob. Bob is here. Do we have access to Bob? Oh, there's our user.txt. And remember, the client wanted this information to demonstrate that we got access. So we should take a screenshot that we got access to user.txt on Bob's desktop. We'll want to make sure a few things, and also a tip for the OSCP, for those of you who are preparing for the OSCP. Why doesn't it let me do this? Are you going to let me do it now? When you do the OSCP, sorry, I'm distracted because my screen froze, but that's only because I'm doing a screenshot. It didn't really freeze on stream. Let me grab this real quick, then I'll explain what I was talking about. When you do the OSCP and you find the flag, there's really a couple of requirements. When you take a screenshot of the flag, you want to make sure you are showing the location that you found the flag, because if you like somehow copy the flag down from the location without having root permissions or NT authority permissions and then take the flag, it doesn't count. So you take a screenshot, you demonstrate the file path that you're in and the flag there, and you also, at least for the OSCP, is you also have to demonstrate the IP, right? So you run IP config. So you need the IP information, the directory location, and the flag information for it to be valid for the OSCP. So for those of you prepping for the OSCP, make sure you read slowly and carefully through the reporting requirements, because you don't want to pass the OSCP, the technical part, and fail because you missed something on the report. Slow down and make sure you pay attention to those details. Okay, looking over the chat. What tipped you off to the second web server hosting SMB on the site? Someone in the chat tipped me off to it. I don't think I would have. I maybe would have got that eventually just through trial and error, but I didn't see it right away. But it's a good thing to put in our notes. What I've noticed is the more boxes you do, the more things like that you'll just begin to notice. The best is when you can't figure out why you can't type and then realize you're staring at a screenshot. Yeah, that is. That's good. So Overgrown Carrot said. Jay Ramel said, I'm working at the same time but didn't logically figure that out. Thought I saw administrator folder. Yeah, there's probably an administrator folder, but we don't have access to it. We can try it, but we're going to have to elevate our privileges, I'm sure, to get to the administrator folder. Did I put these in here? I don't think I did. So let's see this. User.txt. Let's drop this in there. We have the user.txt. We would demonstrate that to the client, but also because it's TryHackMe, we'll drop it in TryHackMe as well. And Amoeba Man, oh shoot, please don't expire. Okay, cool. Amoeba Man, I hope I'm not breaking any rules at TryHackMe. I realized when I started that it says write-ups will not be accepted for this room. I hope they don't mind that I'm live streaming the relevant room. If they do, tell them to get over it. I don't think it'll be that big of a deal, but I just happened to notice that when I started streaming. Okay, we have the user flag, and now we want to do privilege escalation. Now, here's another tab bit where I want to talk about what it's like in the real world, but I say this with kind of a caveat that, once again, I haven't done an internal assessment, but I know from stuff like the OSCP, labs like that, and people I have talked to, is when you're doing enumeration. So let's say if this is a real environment and we got onto the box with user privileges. In a CTF, you're often running WinPeace, right? And you're looking for something that's outdated, maybe a kernel exploit. In the real world, it's much more manual enumeration, right? You're going through document folders, you're doing things like that, seeing if you can find maybe like browser history. Maybe you can find some cache credentials somewhere, but a lot of the enumeration in the real world is going to be more manual enumeration, looking around on the machine, seeing what you can find, seeing what the user has access to. Also, in the real environment, you're often doing it in Active Directory, so once you get creds, you're shooting stuff off like Bloodhound, you're mapping it out in Bloodhound, you're trying to figure out the right attack vector, and we'll maybe do an AD machine and try to walk through it like a pen test as well, and see what we can find. But what I'm seeing here is we just have users.txt. If we do dir here, we just have desktop. If we do dir here, we have public. We can look in public. I'm pretty sure we don't have access to administrator. Yep, access is denied. We could look at the public folder, see if there's anything interesting here. It says 0 files, so I'm going to say there probably isn't. Yeah, we're not going to get anything here. Let's see. So a public Bob administrator, we have some stuff here. So if we just, I'm curious what is all on this machine that might be of interest to us. Looking over at the chat, Overgrown Carrot said Invoke 1 is a good AD machine to showcase AD and LDAP. Just as a heads up, CyberSec Labs also has some really good AD machines. Have you ever done CRTP? I haven't. Would you recommend it? And Oreo Byte said, what box you pulling in? We are doing the relevant machine on TryHackMe and trying to treat it like a legit pen test is the goal here. But I might fire off WinPeace to save time. Oh no. Our machine expired? You guys saw me add more time to the machine, right? I wasn't making that up. Let's just see if we can start our machine back up. Maybe. Let's see what happens. Yeah, you guys saw me add 1 hour. I'm not making that up. Oh, it didn't really expire. It's just telling us it did. Can I add another hour? There we go. We're at 2 hours now. More than enough. It just scared us a little bit, but it doesn't look like we're actually expired. We're still in the machine. Okay. We have the user stuff. I'm thinking if we do whoami/priv. Oh, okay. So hopefully this catches your guys' eye. Once again, manual enumeration. I see that we have an impersonate privilege. We can impersonate a client after authentication, which tells me it's very possible we're going to be able to do a potato attack on this beast. I have a feeling that is probably the method that we're going to use to get admin privileges, and I'm just going to highlight these privileges that we have here. We'll copy this. We'll write this up more in the report, but we can see we have our impersonate privilege. Impersonate a client after authentication, which is very possible a potato attack. And if we look at system info, that gives us an idea of what kind of potato attack we'll be able to do. We have Windows Server 2016, so I believe that is vulnerable to a standard potato attack. If it was 2019, there's only certain potatoes that, you know, we can throw at it. The one that I like to use that actually works for Windows Server 2019 is what is called Sweet Potato. If we go to Sweet Potato, it should pull up on GitHub. Oh, I mean, I guess it won't. I guess it will pull up legit sweet potatoes, obviously. Oh man, that's not gonna do much for us. I'm gonna look for binaries. See here, I think it's releases. Let me back up. Throw some potatoes at them. Oh. Yeah, print. So I think this is the cool thing about Sweet Potato that I'll show you guys. I'll download it, then I'll read it a little bit to you guys. It actually tries a bunch of different ways to exploit it. Oh. Including Print Spoofer. Print Spoofer is built into good old Sweet Potato. So I'll show you guys Sweet Potato. It'll come in handy on all kinds of things. If I can find sweetpotato.exe, what the heck? I don't feel like compiling it. I know I didn't compile it in the past. I'm about to go to my other machine and pull Sweet Potato down myself. Yeah, it runs through everything. It's super helpful because the other potatoes don't work for Windows Server 2019, but Sweet Potato does. It's beautiful. It has saved me so much time in that way. Let's go ahead and save it. And I'll read it. I'll read about it a little bit to you guys. So if we just type Sweet Potato, we don't need a 0. Let's see if I can find a good explanation of Sweet Potato. Okay, yeah. A collection of various native Windows privilege escalation techniques from service accounts to system. So you can see we're using the original raw potato, juicy potato, and print spoofer, and it tries all of them, and it will use whichever one works. Here's some more reading about it. It was designed to be used with Cobalt Strike's execute assembly command. It's cool. Like, at least it hasn't failed me yet, truly. And I believe this is the one I've used in the past. So if we go back over to here, we should be able to exit out of this now. Maybe if I can type. Why can't I type? What? Exit. Thank you. Copy from home. Tyler downloads Sweet Potato. We'll copy to here. Okay, we have Sweet Potato here. And I bet we can probably write to either Bob's desktop or the public desktop. And I'm sure WinPeas would have told us that, but once again, I think it's always... Oh, did I lose my shell? I must have lost my shell. I hope the machine didn't actually die. Let's see if it did. No, I think the machine died, guys. It may be expired even though we added time to it. Yep, it died. Okay, well, Me-Man said maybe it's good to explain what Potato does. That's a good idea. I will. What I think I'll try to do, let's see if we can get this machine started back up. And then while it's starting up, we'll go through some Potato explanations. Firkin3 said Bob got mad and unplugged. You're probably right. He's like, who are these guys? Live streaming my password to everyone. Start machine. Okay, let's give that a little bit of time and we'll just re-exploit it. We documented our steps. We have our shell code there. It really shouldn't be that difficult for us to exploit. We will have to update the IP, but let's just type potato attack explanation. We'll see if we have a good explanation here that will explain it better than I am, or that I'll be able to. I just know I use it all the time. Hot Potato is the code name of a Windows PrivS technique that was discovered by Stephen Breen. This technique is actually a combination of two known Windows issues like MBNS spoofing and NTLM relay with the implementation of a fake WPAD proxy server which is running locally on the target host. Obviously, I mean, I'm sure that makes sense to all you guys. I'm going to kind of scroll through here. Oh, this is helpful. So, as an authenticated user, Pentest Lab, it is worth checking first which are the local administrators on the desktop. We didn't do that. Once the Potato exploit with the so this is with the DLLs, which is the classic way of doing it, is dropped on the system from the command prompt, the following can be executed in order to start MBNS spoofing locally. From the moment the HTTP traffic is generated through a configured Internet Explorer. So this must be different. No, I guess it's the same. For example, these corporate proxy settings, the attack will be deployed and the CMD command will be executed with higher privileges. So you can see what they're doing is they're using this to essentially sudo on Windows to execute the command to add their account to the local administrator group. The way I always use potato attacks is just to give myself a shell as NT authority system. And I know there's different types of potato attacks, like juicy potato is a big one. Let me back out here. Oh, Hacktricks is super helpful. Hacktricks is where I first learned about sweet potato, if I remember right. Because here's what it said. Juicy Potato doesn't work on Windows Server 2019 and Windows 10. However, Prince Spoofer, Rogue Potato, blah, blah, can be leveraged to use the same privileges and do that. So Juicy Potato is abusing the golden privileges. Rotten Potato and its variants leverage the privilege escalation chain based on bit service. This is what I was thinking, having the man-in-the-middle listener on there, and when you have SE impersonate or SE assign primary token privileges. During a Windows build review, we found a setup where bits was intentionally disabled and port 666 was taken. We decided to weaponize Rotten Potato and say hello to Juicy Potato. We discovered that other than bits, there are several comm servers we can abuse, and you can find a list of these. They have to be I can't say that word, by the current user, normally a service user which has impersonation privileges, implement the iMarshal interface, and run as an elevated user. After some testing, we obtained and tested an extensive list of these on several Windows versions. And this is what I've used before, just manually going through these. If the default one doesn't work, sometimes you have to try a few from the list. So like Windows 2016 standard, we can try these from the list. You can also run a script that gets what's on the machine. Usually I just manually do it, and if I can't get it, I'll run the script and see what is available. And then it's giving our information. Maybe they don't talk about Sweet Potato on here. Well, it says the machine can take 5 minutes to start up. I'm going to pull this up actually on my other screen while I find this, and then I'll share my screen because I've used Sweet Potato many, many times. Let's see. I'm finding one where I didn't use it on an OSCP lab, which is right here. So here, and as you can see, when you work through machines, seriously, document all your steps. They come in handy. I do this even when no one's watching. And you can see what I did to exploit this machine. Uploaded a shell to the public folder, started a netcat listener, executed the shell, and then it looks like my potato attack, which is via print spoofer. Here are my steps. I created a payload with MSF Venom, upload to the machine, uploaded sweetpotato.exe to the machine, started netcat listener on the port, ran this command, sweetpotato.exe-a for arguments, and go ahead and fire off this shell. Then that fired off a shell back to my machine as int authority system, and then I was doing pass the hash. This is an AD machine that I was working on, but I guarantee you this is going to be the exact exploit we follow on this machine to give ourselves int authority system privileges. Okay, I'm looking over the chat. I'm going to read this out because you guys are giving some good information over here. Fat Cyclone said, SE impersonate privilege allows you to impersonate any token. Generally, the goal is to grab an elevated token, duplicated it, and launch a process with it. You can find everything here. A meme man said, yeah, you impersonate the token, but there is no admin token. Potato allows you to create the admin process to impersonate. He said, again, this isn't the 100% correct inner workings explanation, just a simple one to explain why impersonation privileges usually means you can use Potato. Fatty Cyclone said, it's an int authority token that you try to grab. You can, for X, coerce an auth to your name, pipe impersonate, and then duplicate to run any other process of your choosing. Above my head, but hopefully that helps some of you guys. I just know, this is what I know. I fire off Potato, I become admin. That's the extent of my knowledge. I should probably dig in more on the inner workings behind how all of it works. But let's see if we open our box back up. Let's see if this is back alive for us. There we go. Sudo pluma etc host. Let's just update our IP here. Be this one right here. Control S. We have that be saved. Now if we ping relevant.thm, we got that fixed. Okay. Back's starting to hurt. Yo, I sat in this chair all day today for work, have supper with my kids, and now I'm back in this chair to hang out with you guys. We are 2 hours and 2 minutes into the stream. Isn't that fun? I would say it's time for a 5-minute break, but I just want to get this exploit to work before we take our 5-minute break. So let's remember all the steps that we are going to need to do. The first thing that we need to do is SMB client -L, because I don't remember it. Actually, we'll ping. Oh, I still have the IP saved. Perfect. SMB client -L. like that. And then we will connect to this share like so. And we have to update our IP information as well before we put that back on there. So if we cd home, Tyler, TryHackMe, relevant, there is our shell. We do IPA. There's our IP. So let's go ahead and grab. Oh, our IP stays the same on TryHackMe. Our IP doesn't update, just the machine update. So actually our shell should be totally fine. So now if we ls and put shell.aspx, perfect, there is our shell. I believe I already have my netcat listener right there. Awesome. So we'll open this back up. We'll close all of our cool little tabs we have open. Go here, HTTP relevant THM. Here it is saved from before. Should work. Wrong terminal. There we go. We are back in business. I'm going to go to public. I'll go to desktop and, oh. Okay, fine. We can work with that. If we do we have temp? Yeah, we do. So now if we echo test to, so we have writable to Windows temp. We can write our files here. So the first thing that we are going to do is, let me move this to the side. I'm always using my own notes and I'm going through stuff. So it looks like I'm creating my payload with MSF Venom. I haven't created payload since for quite some time now that I'm done with OSCP. I think it's MSF Venom, P, Windows, shell, reverse. Oh, I don't know. I don't remember the syntax for a Windows shell. We're going to look it up. I had it memorized when I was doing the OSCP stuff just because I used it all the time. It's Windows shell, reverse, TCP, I think. I don't want to catch it in Metasploit. Reverse TCP. But we want shell. It'd be this right here. Whoops. I don't know why that happened. I just wanted to copy it. Windows shell, reverse TCP. Oh, here's a copy button. So if we open up the right terminal and IPA again, because I don't remember my IP, type that in. We'll make it stageless, I think is what I do when I do it that way. I just sometimes have issues with netcat in the other way, but 10.13.4.234 there. And I don't have Twitch chat pulled up right now, guys, but I will jump back to Twitch and see what things I'm doing wrong. You guys can tell me. We'll do 1338.f.exe and we'll call it Hack Smarter 1338.exe. That looks good to me. Drink of water while that runs. And I guess while that runs, let me get Twitch pulled back up on my other screen. Okay. Furkan said, do you use MSF at all in real pen tests, or is it frowned upon? So like I said, I haven't done too many internal pen tests, so I may not be the best person to ask. I know we use Metasploit for some stuff, but generally, if you generate something MSF Venom, it's going to get caught, pretty quickly by endpoint detection. But Amoeba Man or HunterBot, someone else who has done this kind of stuff longer than I have, would have a better answer. Okay, we have our HackSmarter 1338.exe. We have sweetpotato.exe. So now the next thing we want to do is host a Python web server, which that is a sudo python3.m HTTPS server 80. There we go. Type in our password. Now we're hosting a Python web server, and the reason for that is we just turned our attack machine into a web server. So then from our victim, we can connect to our attack machine and download the exploit. Now in the real world, once again, this is through your command and control server. You're not doing it on your like personal box, but let's go over to here and we'll do cert util url cache.f, and then we're going to type in our IP, which I already forgot what our IP is. Right there. I'm just going to copy it. We'll go over here. That, and what do we call it? Hacksmarter 1338.exe, I think. And I don't remember if I have to specify an output file. I think I do. And we'll go like that. And when that runs, we should see a hit on our Python server, which we're not. So maybe I did. Oh, there it is. We're seeing a GET request. That's good. Now if we do dir, we can see hacksmarter 1338.exe. Now we're just going to do the same thing, cert util url cache.f, type in our IP there, and we're going to do sweetpotato.exe and sweetpotato.exe is our output file. Dir, we have sweetpotato.exe and we have hacksmarter 1338.exe. And now here is where we should get a shell. And now in the real world, if I've never actually got to this point, but if I did, I would do it to see if it works, and I would go back and redo my steps, and we would document each step that we do. So let's go ahead and start our netcat listener on port 1338. And the way this hopefully will work is we will do we don't need to do it that way because we're not in PowerShell. Sweetpotato.exe -a, and we have to specify the full path. So we're in Windows, temp, and hacksmarter 1338.exe. Oh, maybe I do need to do that. What if I just go like this? Is not recognized as internal external command, operatable program, or batch file. Really? Is it the wrong architecture? Usually you get a different error though with wrong architecture. Might have to go back to good old Juicy Potato. Juicy Potato will do the same thing for us, at least on Windows 2016. But I wanted to show how cool Sweet Potato was. Come on, do something. Let me get this pulled back up. What's my box doing? Oh, just being really slow. Like really slow. All right, we'll let it talk to us. Ooh, getting tired, y'all. Come on. Why is it being so slow all of a sudden? Oh, you know, we could have uploaded it there too, I suppose. We could have uploaded print spoofer and things there. I mean, I don't think it would make any different. Or not print spoofer, sweet potato. We'll go to print spoofer if this doesn't work though. I just wanted to show sweet potato. Sweet potato. Hacksmarter 1338.exe. That's the shell file we created with MSF Venom. So now we have it in two spots. Okay. I don't know why sweet potato doesn't want to work for us. If I do if I go over here, yeah, that is the correct file type. Does my shell work? Oh wait, it's gone. They got antivirus or something deleting things out of the temp folder. That's why it didn't run. You guys see that? It's not there. But you know where I bet they don't delete it from. I'm going to exit because I don't remember the file path. Where they don't delete it from, I bet. Could be wrong. Oh, hey, this would be information disclosure as well. Or verbose error messages. They shouldn't have this verbose of error messages. Let's just grab that while I'm thinking of it. But if we go to our terminal here, dir, did it keep it here at least? Or did it find it and kick it out on us? Oh, they got us. So the network share, I wonder where that's even at on here. If we go to where do you guys think that is being hosted? I'm definitely showing my newbiness here on Windows. I don't think it's there. Hey, rating with the party of 21. Hey, Taggart sent them here. Dude, I've heard so much about you and all the stuff you do. I appreciate you sending me a rating party of 21. Thank you. Thank you guys for being here. What we are doing right now is we're working through the relevant machine on TryHackMe, but we're trying to treat it like a real pen test. You know, we're documenting everything, including version enumeration and stuff like that. And we have impersonation privileges, but it seems that there is antivirus or something on here that's cleaning up our files. Whoops. Tiger said, look at those lovely notes. Yeah, I've never used Cherry Tree, actually. Usually I use OneNote when I'm doing actual assessments, but I wanted to keep everything in this box, so we're using Cherry Tree on this beast and trying to document stuff as we go. But let's jump back to our terminal. Let's go over here. Can we write to Bob? I doubt it, but oh, we can? Okay. I didn't expect that to work. I wonder. So what I'm curious about is there actually like an endpoint defender deleting our files, or is there just like something meant to run in the temp directory that's cleaning it out to, essentially mess with me? That's my question. Let's see if we can throw it in Bob's folder, or we'll just have to do it super fast before it like deletes the files. One of the two, because it's allowing us to upload it. Let's see if this does anything. Oh yeah, good idea. We can check if Defender's running. I'll do that after this. I'd assume if Defender was running, it wouldn't even let me upload it, but maybe. Oh, I don't have PowerShell open. We'll see if that even starts up. Maybe it won't. Okay, I'm going to glance over at the chat because I haven't read through too much of this yet. Back, we had to pick up my kid from school. Did we get NT system? We did not yet, but we're going to. It deleted our files that we tried to upload on the machine. And apparently I broke up by doing PowerShell.exe. Oh, maybe it's going to work. Sick raid. Can you confirm by re-uploading to temp? Yeah, for sure deleted it on temp, I think. Can I get PowerShell? This machine's being super slow for me. Like, even when we ran system info, it took forever to run. Come on. There we go. Now we can check. Get MP computer status. Man, slow. Let's see if we missed anything here in our notes, though. You guys saw anything I missed? We got version disclosure, clickjacking, authentication not required, passwords.txt with base64 encoded on SMB server, signing disabled, SMB share is accessible, SMB share is writable. We demonstrated our remote code execution, talked about how we would inform the client about that if we found in the real world. We found the user.txt flag that the client asked for. We got our impersonate privileges. We had that verbose error message when we stopped our shell. Okay. All right. Oh, shoot. Is it actually on? Ooh, it is on. Yeah, look at that. It deleted. It's deleting my stuff. So we have to figure out how to bypass Defender. It all depends, I guess, how can we turn, well, we probably can't turn off Defender, obviously. We don't have administrative privileges yet. We have SE impersonate privileges. Okay, let me just think about this real quick, because if we upload, if we upload this sweetpotato.exe, all right, if we upload this, Oh, I just didn't do the syntax correct. I have a few ideas in my mind of how we're going to bypass this. One that I'm thinking is if we host an SMB server on our attack box and we run the exploits by connecting to our SMB server rather than locally on the machine, would that allow us to bypass the protection that's on the machine to get into the authority system? That's what I'm thinking in my head. The script contains malicious content. Okay, this is what I was expecting to see. Right before, it actually allowed me to upload it, but now it's like, hey, stop doing that. Fine. We'll stop doing it, but we're gonna figure out a different way to get connected. And once again, I usually do this in Kali. I wonder what tools are built into here. Whoops. I don't want to do that. Can I just run it there? Like if I do Python 3 packages, I have, one second, I'm gonna glance at my own notes. I'll pull them over here. I've done this many times. Okay, you guys can't see my OSCP lab notes, but we have some other stuff that we have here. So here's how I did in the past. SMB server pi, then I named the share, then I specified the share location, and then this one, so sometimes with Windows it doesn't allow you to connect unless you have credentials. So then I set credentials for Tyler, enabled SMB2 support, and then on the Windows victim, that's how I took them down. So, okay, Oreo Byte said SMB server pi should be in the path, or use impact at SMB server. Yeah, let's see which one of these works. Like I said, I'm usually did all this stuff in the past in Kali, and I changed over to Parrot just for fun. So I'm just not used to doing it in Parrot. Will that allow me to? That looks like that one might be working. Yeah, okay. That's all we need to do is we'll specify the options in that way. I'm going to pull my other nodes over here. So here's how I did it in the past with Kali. So we'll call it Hack Smarter again. We'll do home, Tyler, TryHackMe relevant that way. And we probably don't have to specify a username. We'll try it not at first. We'll do SMB2 support like that and see. Oh, I need to sudo that beast. Sudo. Okay, cool. We might take, let's see, it's been, how long have we been on stream now? 2 hours and 23 minutes. We might take another 5-minute break shortly. Oreo Bite said, how you liking Parrot? I like it. So the only reason I switched to Parrot is I recently got OSCP, and I've spent like 2 years using Kali exclusively, and I just like changing things all the time. And so I was like, hey, let me try out Parrot for a little bit. So I've been using Parrot at work as well as just for my own learning. And I mean, it's very similar to Kali. They seem the same. The only thing I notice is in Kali, Eyewitness never works right for me. It always errors out, but in Parrot, Eyewitness works the first time with no errors, and that made me very happy when I was doing a external assessment with a bunch of IPs. Eyewitness worked in Parrot. That's the only difference I've noticed. And I'm sure you can get it to work in Kali. I'm sure it's user error on my end, but the exact same command worked in Parrot without any issues. So let's we could try a few things. Let's see if we can set an actual thing here. I already forgot my IP. Let's see. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? We can take this one out. We got all that documented. Here's our IP there. Go back. I need to label these tabs. I can't stand it when the tabs aren't labeled. It's just my type A personality. Hack smarter. And we don't need a user. Let's see if this works at all. Okay. You can't use it. So how about if I do dir? Would that work? Is it trying to do anything? Oh yeah, it is. I like this hash. Ah! Okay, so it's trying to authenticate, but it's closing down. What we could try, if we open this back up and if we add a user, so let's try username, we'll call it Tyler, my name, and we'll just call our password Tyler1234. Same password I use for my bank account. It has to be secure. And we'll go over here, and now if we try to net use Z, I don't think this will make any difference, but I mean, it's worth trying at this point. User Tyler1234. Oh, shoot. It worked. We may have just bypassed Defender using my very weird method. Huh, okay. Well, before the finale of us getting this, there's a few things I want to do. First, I just want to document that I did this, right, for the client. This is how I bypass Defender and their environment. So we'll grab a screenshot of that. We'll open up our notes here on findings, and we'll just say, this would really be like your command and control server, right? In the real world, you wouldn't be using your attack machine on that, but we hosted our SMB server on the attack machine with credentials and SMB2 support, to be specific, because it didn't work without credentials initially. and connected to it from the victim. And there we can see that we put it on our Z drive and we did dir, and we have those files. I'm curious if it will detect, like if it will somehow try to delete these, but they're still there. So far, so good. Okay, guys. Well, it's been 2 hours and 28 minutes before we hopefully become NT Authority System. Let's take another 5-minute break, and I'll be back in 5 minutes. And we are back. Time for some more hacking. Let me share my screen. One thing I do, shameless self-plug. If you have not subscribed to me on YouTube, please do. I post all of my live streams on YouTube as soon as they're done, as well as various other videos and interviews with people. I've recently had the honor of interviewing Heath Adams. I've interviewed Matt Kiley, John Hammond, cool people like that. Have some cool interviews coming up. So subscribe to me on YouTube if you haven't already. I am like a tiny, tiny fish compared to everyone else, but enjoy doing things like this. So thank you guys for hanging out. And let's dive back into the hacking. So from what I can see, we were able to bypass Defender by creating our own share with SMB server through Impacket, and it's still there. So now I'm very curious. Let's just call this admin shell. This is out of faith that it's going to work. We have our admin shell there. We have this. We have the hash, of course, since we got a valid connection. Let's jump over to this, and we will see if this works. I'm actually going to pull up my personal notes from the last time I did this and see how I did it over here. Okay, let's give this a shot. So if we do sweetpotato.exe, do the / now that we are in PowerShell, -a for arguments, and now we have to specify our full path, which now we're in the Z drive. If we do hacksmarter1338.exe, did I do anything wrong? Let's find out. Come on. I'm just hoping it's being slow. Do something. Please. Please do something. At least tell me it doesn't work. Don't just sit there and look at me. Maybe I need to exit out of PowerShell. Shouldn't make a difference though. Come on, sweet, sweet potato. Please, I'm begging you. Make sure we're not going to run out of time on TryHackMe. Let me add just another hour. We're not going to be here another hour though. Oh, I can't extend my machine 1 hour before it's due. Well, last time my machine died after I extended it, TryHackMe. Oh, shoot. No. Sweet potato failed to run because the file contains a virus or potentially unwanted software at line 1, character 1. Yeah, maybe I said, why not do some simpler command? Yeah, we could try that instead of like trying to spawn this shell. I think it would still be like sweetpotato.exe-a. Yeah, I don't know if base64 on code would bypass it. I'm thinking in my head of the options. Did it get caught on sweet potato or the shell code? You know what I mean? Like, what if I just run sweet potato? No, I wouldn't have permission to kill Defender. Not as my lowly user that I am. Gosh, this is really slow. I so thought that was going to work. I'm going to have to do some Googling. Oh no. Is it killing my SMB share now? Alright. Stephen Breen, Juicy Potato. You know, it has to be a potato attack, right? Like, it needs to be a potato attack. I didn't have to bypass AV, though, on OSCP type stuff. You can't have sweet potato execute by opening the NFS in the browser. You uploaded it, right? I don't think so. So it's stopping sweet potato in general. Who even am I? Who am I? What's Bob doing? Bob's nothing. Bob's nobody. Net user. Bob, default account guest. And of course our account, which has these interesting permissions, but Oreo Bite said, how's your evasion? My evasion's not good, my friend. I've never had to do AV evasion. Outside of, like, I've done it in lab type stuff. Like in the OSCP labs, you have to evade antivirus. I just use Hoax Shell to do it. But, you know, I don't know how to launch a potato attack by evading Windows Defender. I need to sit and think for a second on how I can evade it. We're so close. Man said, time for a different potato or spooler than perhaps. Yeah, I wonder if it would get print spoofer. Let's see. I'll have to remind myself of the syntax with GitHub. But I was, you know, sweet potato would do print spoofer on its own. Let's see if it detects this or not. So let's download this, open up our terminal. There's our fake admin shell. Here is our Python web server. And we'll copy, where are we at? The CD TryHackMe, relevant, and copy from home, Tyler, downloads. And, you know, here's another thing that you would point out to a client. You don't want to just tell them what they did bad, but you want to tell them what their strengths are. So I would include this in the report, something along the lines of, like, Windows Defender definitely stopped me, at least for some time, of executing things, right? That it was successful in preventing sweet potato attack, for example, just to show them, like, here are strengths. So when you do a client, you don't just want to say, here are all the things you suck at. You want to also record when things don't work and say, here is how you actively or properly defended against me, against an attacker. Let's see, print spoofer. Okay, there's print spoofer there. If we go back to, okay, I'm just going to call this shell. If we go back to our shell now, why so slow? Okay, there's printspoofer.exe. I mean, can I just run it just for testing? No arguments. Blah, blah, blah. Grant system user shell access. Whoops, did not mean to click that. Oh, good. Please specify command to execute. That is excellent. Awesome. Okay. there's a few things. Well, let's see. If we do print spoofer, just want to know the syntax for this. Usage, blah, blah, blah. Print spoofer.h, spawn a system shell and interact with it. I mean, that seems pretty easy. Let's try the easy path first. And let's go to terminal here. Spawn a system process and exit. Spawn a system process on the desktop. Here's what I was looking for, like how they do the command, how they pass the arguments over. We got it, ladies and gentlemen. We are NT Authority System 2 hours and 44 minutes later. Beautiful. We're going to control C that. Let's pull up our cherry tree down here. And path to NT Authority System. We'll just say we utilized print spoofer to spawn a shell authority system. There it is. So we have that. Let's jump back over to our shell here, because what the client asked for specifically was for us to demonstrate we have access by getting the root flag, cd desktop. So you guys remember those passwords in the beginning? Those were a rabbit hole. They didn't work for anything. There's our root flag. We'll go ahead and grab that. We'll drop that in our notes here. Go back to our shell. That, go back to TryHackMe. There you go, TryHackMe. Congratulations. You've completed the room. Darn right. Okay, but that's only the beginning of the process. I'm looking over at the chat. Meebman said, whoop whoop, would still be cool to see AV evasion in action, but at least this might get you systems still today. Yeah, we could always come back to this, which I actually plan on doing. Good work, congrats, let's go. User redacted says sweet potato incorporates print spoofer, so I wonder why it failed earlier. Yeah, AV disabled it. Awesome. A Mew Man said now disable AV and run potato. Yeah, I bet I could. Since Windows Defender started from running from the first line of code, AV's flagging it. Call Bob, he's crying. Bob thought he wanted for a second. Give Bob a raise. He's probably the CTO. He probably is. Let's see. I was going to go till 11. We have 14 more minutes. Let's go ahead and disable Windows Defender. Just don't remember the syntax for it. Open start, search for PowerShell. Okay. Let's see if we can just disable it this way now that we are admin. So can I just drop into PowerShell and drop that command in? And now if I cd to Z, drive with name Z does not exist. Okay. Did I close that drive out? Let's just upload. Let's just re-upload our stuff just for fun. We'll see if it works. Grab my IP again. Control Shift C. Here's our shell, cert util URL cache.f, like that. Sweet potato.exe. Oh, whoops, my bad. So we have to do cert util URL cache.f, like that. You got to specify the out name, like that. Oh, did I type something else wrong? Cert util URL cache-f. Fine. Do I not have my Python web server running anymore? No, it's running. Code 404 message file not found. What do you mean? Oh, I deleted it? Why did I delete it? Whatever. Whoops. Getting sloppy. There we go. Now let's try that again. That's freaking out. That's okay. Cert util URL cache-f. Just curious if we can run it now. Yep. Oh, I broke it. It works though. We can easily get a shell now. But let's exit out of here. Let's go back to our original shell. Let's run our shell again. And then we should be able to do it now. Oh shoot, I put that in admin. Oh well. We'll just redo it in Windows. Nothing should stop us now that we disabled that. And we'll see if we can catch a shell another way. Hacksmarter 1338.exe. Is this guy still listening? He is. So now we should be able to sweet potato.exe-a full path is Windows temp hacksmarter 1338.exe like that. And there we are again. We are also anti-authority system twice after we disabled Windows Defender. I would say we thoroughly took down that box. But once again, that is only step one of the process. Step two now is taking the vulnerabilities we found and writing a usable report, or at least maybe for our purposes, documenting each vulnerability, giving an explanation, and giving some suggested remediation. But that will have to happen in another session. Thank you guys for hanging out. I've been going for nearly 3 hours. But hopefully you guys learned something. I know I learned something through your help as we worked our way through this machine, and we went from no access to anti-authority in about 2 hours and 44 minutes. You're probably not going to do that in the real world, but the biggest thing I wanted to draw your guys' attention to is the difference between a CTF and the real world is you're documenting all vulnerabilities, even informational vulnerabilities. It's not all just about popping shells and becoming root right away. The other thing hopefully you saw is the value of manual enumeration. We did not fire off WinPiece. First, we looked through documents and desktop. Then we just checked our who am I privileges. And we saw that we had that SC impersonate privilege. And once you do more boxes, more CTFs, you'll begin to recognize some of those things, begin to essentially smell blood, and you know when you're able to elevate those privileges. The other thing I think we demonstrated that was helpful is when one method doesn't work, try something else. So we thought we bypassed Windows Defender by using smbserver.py, but that didn't work. Sweet Potato was getting caught, but for some reason Print Spoofer was not being caught. Maybe they didn't update the definitions or something like that. But when one way doesn't work, make sure you have multiple ways to do the same thing. That goes even with file transfers, especially for those of you who might be prepping for the OSCP. Always have multiple ways of doing the same thing. If you can't transfer files with Python web server, can you do it with SMB server? Can you do it with Netcat? There's different ways you can do file transfers. Make sure you can do the same thing, but in multiple ways for when you get stuck in a real assessment or in a CTF or on an exam. But guys, thank you for hanging out with us. Oh yeah, Amoeba Man said you maybe also want to enumerate the host for other vulns like a host review. That's good, right? This is just, there's post exploitation we would do now, especially in a bigger network. We would see what network interfaces do we have, but we'd also, like what Amoeba Man's saying, is just go through the machine, see what is outdated, see what else we can help the client with. That'll have to be for another time. I will make sure I do a part 2. I'm not sure when it's going to be, but I'll do my best to schedule the part 2. Otherwise, you'll be able to find me on Twitch hacking other stuff, or if you haven't already, subscribe to me on YouTube. This is the type of content I create. I enjoy doing this stuff, and as I said before, I am a penetration tester, but I'm super new to the field, super new to my role. I have a lot to learn, so hopefully as I do these things and I learn myself, you learn with me. So guys, thank you for hanging out. Thank you for watching, and have an awesome night, or depending on your time zone, have an awesome day. I will catch you guys in the next video. See ya.